Jimmy had been having some strange sort of systemic aches and pains. Started off with his arm was hurting, and then he didn't want to put weight on his legs.
It got bad enough towards the end where he really didn't even want to walk. And at that point, we already had an appointment down here with Dr. Dare, the pediatric rheumatologist.
Had us in and did a great exam, took x-rays and a new set of blood work.
And so we missed lunch, so we stopped on the way home to grab some lunch, and Dr. Dare called and he said, I'm sorry, but you guys are going to have to come back. My heart just sank. I knew it wasn't good. I knew they wouldn't ask us to come back right away for good news. And so Dr. Dare and his nurse CJ sat down with us right when we got back. She held my hand and they said, you know, this looks like a leukemia, but we need to do more tests and we need to make sure. So they explained that we needed to have a biopsy, which we had the next day. The biopsy results, they came back very quickly, and it was AML, acute myeloid leukemia. So the next day they scheduled him for a surgery to have a central line placed in his chest. The day that he received his central line, he also started his chemotherapy.
Jimmy had new procedures, had an IV, and immediately was on fluids and hooked up to things he'd never been hooked up to.
Acute myeloid leukemia is a very aggressive form of cancer in children. And so they had to treat it just as aggressively, and so they really gave him a lot of meds right away. They didn't waste a second. Shortly after we got home from the third round of chemo, Jimmy got a fever. And that was really scary because we were 3.5 hours away from his doctors.
Being neutropenic, we're always sort of on edge for if he gets a fever, we have to either get flown back by the helicopters or come in an ambulance.
So we spent a couple weeks here recovering from his fever. Then he had his fourth and his final round of chemo. You know, I naively was high-fiving folks on my way out, you know, thanks for taking care of us. And literally less than a week later, we were back with another fever, and this time he was very sick. It was the sickest he had ever been, and I hope the sickest that he ever will be.
We basically lived out of the back of our car for the 5 or 6 months where we were inpatient frequently. So if you come down here for 30 days, you live in a hospital room, you want to make it feel as homey as possible. So we had extra pillows and blankets and all of the Legos we could cram in a room. Of course, the Ninja Turtles were with us.
Jimmy loves anything superhero, especially Ninja Turtles, but these days he's also a big fan of Spider-Man and Superman and all the things that any 3-year-old or 4-year-old boy that lives in Arkansas is interested in.
Jimmy felt and still feels like this is a really fun, comfortable place to be. It could have been a really scary, painful place to be, but he still really loves to come here and see people.
He looked at this as an adventure. For him it was, oh, we all get to stay in the same room. Oh, Grammy and Grandpa are gonna come visit. Cece and Woo are gonna come visit. Oh, they let me eat Jell-O whenever I want. All these things that weren't part of his everyday. So he really saw the positive, and so we tried to follow his lead on that. So we tried to keep it fun. We tried to let him still wear his superhero capes when he could. We talked about his central line, about him having a superpower. He was able to eat and drink and get medication through his chest. Now that his central line is removed, his new superpower is that he beat cancer. Supporting the hospital financially for us was an easy decision. Joe and I, and my parents especially, and most of our family and friends too, have felt compelled to give. The need is great. Unfortunately, it's full up here on 4K. There are a lot of sick kids, and the things that make this place so special are expensive. The preschool teacher that comes and does one-on-one lessons when Jimmy can't be around other kids. The nurses that spend time with you, that don't just come in and give you your meds and take off, that come in and check on you and really want to know how are you doing. They're beyond thorough and capable. They're loving and they're caring, and they're part of our family now. And because of this, I mean, we'll always support this place no matter what happens. They took care of us in the very worst time of our lives and did it with compassion and grace and intelligence, and we couldn't be bigger fans. Until no child needs Arkansas Children's Hospital, we need you.